the postmortem interval, the time at body was recovered after death. The identification process, need to be done in a very meticulous and also in a very scientific way, with due respect to the body in a dignified. From the identification is of paramount importance. All are aware now that bone and teeth are the excellent source of information. And about the forensic anthropology, earlier my mentor, Dr. Rajesh Babu sir, had already given a broad overview of forensic anthropology. And Tamarai Chelvan and Dr. Vijay also had expertise in this field of human identification. But along with the bone, teeth, which are the hardest substance tissue in our body, also provide the information on certain characteristics or profile, namely the age, the sex, the ancestry, etc., etc. In my previous webinar, I had highlighted the role of teeth in age estimation. So in this present webinar, I will not be discussing. So I'm here to present before you in fact, the basic things about dental anthropology, its application, and its scope in forensic human identification, with some of the cases and practical experience which I have. But when forensic dentist works in collaboration, without bone, the teeth has no value. In fact, forensic value is very less when the teeth is without its bone, attached bone. So always bone and teeth in a combo, then there's more chance of positive identification. And it's also proved that the evidentiary or the anthropological value of teeth exists maximum as long as they stay in their bony socket. So that means, teeth are, dependent. That means, how I can say, forensic odontologists or dental anthropology, if they want to be applied in human identification cases, then we need the support of forensic anthropologists. The anthropological work by I wrote here in the case of the one of 1895, it does a testimony for this statement. So with the teeth, how the bodies were identified based on the tooth identification as well as so anthropology played some role here. So before going in detail about the dental, a small introduction on the dental forensic anthropology. The reputation, it is that branch of physical anthropology which for forensic purposes deals with the identification of a more or less skeletalized remains known to be all suspect of being human. Are brought, sometimes it in our cases also that the police brought the animal bones as well as human bones together. So there, the skill lies there. So to differentiate between human bone and the animal bone, but we here concentrating only human bone. So it's a type of allied anthropology that specializes in the changes and variation of human skeletal for the purpose of legal. So that the forensic anthropology is defined. Now, next one. The forensic anthropology, if you see, it is intertwined, between various branches like the anthropology, human anatomy, especially the osteology part of human anatomy, the forensic odontology, paleontology, archaeology. So it's an allied branch. So with all the from all specialities, forensic anthropology is working. Now, sometimes, I also had this confusion earlier days, difference between the archaeology and anthropology. Very recently I got a clear picture. earlier I was not having this clear imagination of what archaeologists will do, what anthropologists will do. Now it's very simple. In fact, archaeology involves the context of they discover, they document, they interpret the findings of all the other things, and not only related to the human remains or human bone. So it involves everything. So, but here, hello, hello. It involves the analysis of the evidential materials and artifacts. But when you attach this taphonomy, that the branch which deals with the estimation of time since death and reconstruction of the circumstances before and after the deposition of the body, and also with due respect to the geographical and environmental conditions. So in combination of all these things, forensic anthropology takes its input from these above fundamental things. So that is how we have this special branch. Forensic odontology is joining, then with the anthropology knowledge in a forensic ontologist, and a need for a specialized branch, the forensic dental anthropology. It's very premature now to talk about forensic dental anthropology currently, because even forensic odontology in India itself is not its own credit or recognition. So adding one more branch, it's very early to say. But a person who is working in a field, a forensic anthropologist who is working in the field, knows the importance of the dental anthropology or the forensic odontology. So that is why the anthropology divisions, they also concentrate on the dental findings for the identification. So from anthropology, we can see is more than just bones, and odontology is more than this. I always used to think, and I used to tell also to many people, forensic anthropology is more than just bones, and forensic odontology is more than just teeth. You should think beyond that. So in future, if a good combination or a collaboration with the forensic anthropology, there are people working in India on forensic anthropology, on anthropology, and now there are people specialized in forensic odontology and have certain sufficient knowledge on dental anthropology. So a combination of forensic anthropology with the available forensic odontologists, can come up with a new set of forensic dental anthropology also. So this is just a possibility. It's not like a compulsion, but it's a possibility is there. When a body is being found, from a forensic anthropologist point of view, the most often the skeletons are dealt with, sometimes they get a full skeletal, single skeleton, or sometimes commingled if it's a mass engraved, or commingled with other skeletal, other person's skeletal remains, and sometimes fragmentary. So this all depends on how the factors like the stratification, the soil erosion has occurred, the terrain, where the body was buried, whether it's on a flat or in a slopey area, and also very importantly the animal scavenging. Whether the animal, if it is a deep buried body, then there is less chance of animal scavenging. But in case of homicidal and in urgency, the perpetrators of crime may not bury the body properly, and sometimes it happens that within a few hours after the burial, the animals start scavenging on that particular body, and the body parts are being scattered all around. And if it is a slopey terrain, then there is chances that the skull portion or the cranial part of that particular body may be far away because of the slopey nature, and if it's like a ball, it gets rolling on. So all these factors need to be considered when a forensic odontologist or an anthropologist, dental anthropologist, going in as a team with the forensic anthropologists. So this is one of the ways where it got like that. We got a call, got the claim, and the forensic medicine people gave the call. This tooth, particular single tooth, was considered as an animal tooth because there were certain animal bones also lying around this particular body. So they considered, because it was a very long tooth, so it sometimes happened. So when I got the call, I just went there, and immediately we could make out, that this is nothing but a human canine. So with the longest root, around 25 millimeter. So we just, got this case transferred to our college department, and we started working. So this is just a cranium with a tooth. Now the question is, does this tooth belong to this particular person, or is it of someone else, or of a mandible? So that the dental anatomy plays a very important role here. So this is the maxilla portion, and we had only two maxillary molars on either side and one canine. So now, if you have identified the tooth just based on the morphology, that is where the dental anatomy plays a role. Just based on the morphology, the way we teach in our department, the mesial cuspal ridge, the distal cuspal ridge, the mesial side, the convex, concave surface, all that plays a role, and we could just make an identity that this is a maxillary right canine. So of course there is a socket is also empty. If I identified this as a maxillary canine, if already one canine is there, that means either there are two possibilities: my finding is wrong, or this tooth must be belonging to someone else. So now we need to confirm that. So to it to our RVG, we took a RVG of the socket without tooth, and since we have identified this as a right canine, so we inserted the tooth in the socket. So it has to exactly match with the outline of the socket. So the root outline and the socket outline are perfectly matching. So that will conclude. So of course we can go for DNA. Take the DNA from this, take the DNA from bone, to match the DNA. So we need to wait for nearly 1 week or 10 days for that. But within maybe half an hour time, we could come out with this conclusion that probably this tooth belongs to the same person. And this, based on this particular canine, I gave the age estimation in this case using the PTR method. So the first thing to prove is this belongs to this person, and then we go for the age estimation. So this is where the combination of an anthropologist, and of course, when in a site like that, if we get a cranium or the skull, of course we can corroborate with the sutural sutures. Age estimation from the sutures also can be done, and we can correlate our dental age with the cranial sutures with the help of forensic anthropologists. So this is just one case. Similarly, another case where we get a mandible. There are, you can see the socket here, empty socket, that is 6 in number, but the teeth we given were 8 in number. So now the possibility is is it fitting exactly here? The anatomy, first and foremost, the anatomy, dental anatomy plays an important role here. So we need to, very strenuously, we need to identify this tooth, very clearly, correctly, and match it with the socket here. So, okay, we can do that for 6 of these available teeth, but 2 are extra teeth. So now the possibility is it, do they belong to the same person or someone else? Maybe in that particular crime scene, there must be a fighting between 2, and even the perpetrator's tooth would have been fallen off our wrist, so that might be lying. So all depends on the crime scene and the collection of evidences. So that also plays a very important role here. So what we did, we just go for we modified the technique. Usually in a living clinical dentistry, we keep the sensors inside so this is just a modification we did, and we tried to match with the socket and the tooth. Okay, so we could do that for the 6 teeth. We identified that as the mandibular teeth. Now 2, the remaining 2, they were of anatomically resembling like a premolar, but now this is where the cuspal anatomy or the traits, what I call it as a non-metric traits, play an important role here. Now these are not the fresh teeth, freshly erected, so that I can see a very clear mesial cuspal ridge and the distal cuspal ridge very clear. But here it is not that clear. We always rely on certain anatomical features like the grooves and the cuspal ridge, the marginal ridges. So all that plays an important role here. And these are mandibular premolar. So obviously both are single rooted. If it is maxillary, in majority of the cases, the first premolar will be having two roots, but here they are having single root. Now, after a lot of, consuming a lot of time and inquiring or even taking help of my colleagues in the department, we could come to a conclusion. Yes, they are maxillary. These are maxillary premolars, and both are single rooted. So that is where the confusion was. These were not mandibular premolars. Sorry for that mistake earlier. They were maxillary premolars. So, and both were having a single root. So now the possibility is one could be a right second premolar and another could be a left second premolar. Okay. Now the issue is both were single, but anatomically the crown morphology are different. So this is how we make out the taper which is taking place greater in first premolar, whereas the taper is very less. Those who know the dental anatomy can appreciate this. The taper here in the buccal to lingual aspect. So this is greater in first premolar, whereas somewhat ovoidal in the second premolar. So with that basic information, we thought these could be first and second premolar root. So it is only one root. So now it's a trait. The number of root itself is a trait. So so we could assume that yes. Question is, are they really first and second adjacent teeth? So we extended our and we could see that area. This last time what I told, the amount of tobacco staining or whatever the extrinsic staining present here, you can easily see that the outline here, because this is a contact area, that means that this area is of this particular stain. So this also proves that this is a post-mortem loss of teeth. It may not be an ante-mortem, either a peri-mortem loss or post-mortem loss. So this is how the dental anatomy sometimes helps in the identification. Of course, we have done the age estimation in this case and submitted the report. Now, with those basic informations, now let us jump into the actual topic, that is the dental anthropology. So it is by definition, there are many forensic odontology students there in the participation list. So it's very important for them. They should know this definition: the study of morphological variation metrics. Morphological variations means those non-metric. That means those traits, non-metric traits, which I was discussing about. So they are the morphological variations. And the sets of the dentition. So where we do the measurement and see, like for example, the buccal lingual dimension and the mesodistal dimensions. So and human population over time, like it may the specimen may be of a prehistoric period or from a modern period. Who knows? It's not like all those skeletons which are of modern period. So it may have been dumped many thousands of, and we have experienced that also. Okay, so now the time over time is very important. That is the prehistoric or modern, and also the space. That means certain ethnic influences may play a role in this. Because there are certain racial or the ethnic differences which are observed in the tooth. The teeth of Negroid race will be different from the Mongoloid or Caucasoid race. So we'll be seeing that in detail. So it focuses on the the use of tooth in resolving the anthropological principles. Also, we know that the enamel is the strongest substance in the body, so it is resistant to the taphonomic, environmental, thermal, all types of changes. It is resistant, so it is able to preserve its originality. So that is the basic for this dental anthropology. Now, in a nutshell, I can say those factors which are playing role, that means the genetic influences. We know that last time also I told that there is a genetic influence in the development of the tooth. Along with that, the factor that it's able to resist the taphonomic changes, and also the ease of recording. Okay, especially in the skeletalized remains. Of course, if it is a fresh body with a rigor mortis, then there might be some difficulties which we encounter because of the stiffness of the jaw. But in a skeletalized body, the recording is very, very easy. Okay, and the geographical variations which have been proved, which have been studied by many researchers throughout the world, they have toiled and they have given their results and reports. So we are using this their reports. And the next thing is its ability to frame the biological profile. Of course, not only the age, the gender, the stature, the race, all these things can be biological profile may be able to record. And ability to reflect the dietary habits. Yes, we need to somewhat extend to that, like not only the anatomical variations, or the morphological, or the pulpal, not only those variations. Even the teeth provides valuable information related to the dietary habits. Some of the cases I'll be showing in detail. And also provides information of certain diseases which have occurred in the past. So based on those, the pattern of the disease, if it is if it's a mass in gray, and when you try to find out hundreds of bodies and hundreds of mandibles, and the teeth are showing single dental caries pattern or any staining pattern. So such information also can be obtained from that. And also it is giving certain information about the geological past, like how our forerunners were there earlier. So all these informations may be obtained from the teeth. Now the reason why dental anthropology is getting importance, because in 1959 itself, Butler had given the morphogenetic theory. That is, whenever the tooth is developing, it's totally controlled by the genes. We have the varieties of teeth. We all are looking at our teeth every day, morning and night, and we never thought why these teeth are different. One is different from other. Okay, so now the central incisors, they have a typical shape and size. The laterals, they are somewhat different. The canines are different. The first premolar is different. Second premolar is different from the first premolar. First molar, second molar, third molar. So all these are unique to themselves. So there is a field influence acting on each and every tooth, and the teeth are part of the system, not rather than being an individual element. When this field theory, what it says is that there is no gene or evolution effect on one particular tooth. In fact, it is to the entire field. So that is the reason we have some first molar and second molar somewhat number of cusp and size may vary, but ultimately we say it is a molar, isn't it? So we may not be able to tell as a canine or a canine as a molar. So that difference is there. And it's one fact that the more farther the tooth is from the influencing tooth, the more phenotypic variants are prone to occur. So that is the reason why third molar, the last molar, which seldom comes out, they are morphologically varied from the first molar in terms of number of cusp or the size or root. So that is why he had given the field theory that there is influence on not on a particular tooth, in fact on a field. But later on, the very pioneer in the field of dental anthropology in 1945, he told, he mentioned that instead of having three, like in canine, there was no premolar field, because Butler considered the premolar as anterior extension of the molars. So Dalberg later modified the concept, and he introduced that for a premolar also. And he also mentioned that the most anterior tooth in that particular field is the most stable one, meaning that in the molar field, the first molar is the most stable tooth. That means we need to concentrate on that first molar in terms of, not in terms of function, or not in terms of the caries, or not in terms of periodontal problems, but in terms of anthropology. So they are the most stable tooth and the most steady tooths. So we may not be able to anthropologically prove that the third molar's variations are there. Of course, some new research can be taken on this topic. But what Dalberg stated is the anterior tooth particular field is the most stable tooth. So for example, if you take the premolar field, the first premolar is supposed to be the most stable tooth in the field. So that is the importance of the genetic theory. Yeah, this is one more slide. So in clinical point of view, this is how we show that this is a clinical picture. But from anthropological or osteological point of view, this is how we can say that this is the incisor field, this is the canine field, this is a premolar for those who are non-dentists there, so it will be easy for you to understand. So these are the molar fields. So all the three molars will be in the molar field, and premolars here, and canine and incisor. So this is the importance. So that is where, you know, the comparative dental anatomy also plays an important role. That is where, you know, the difference with the hominids, you know, our forefathers earlier, so they had done difference. You know, if you compare the gorillas and the apes, you know, sometimes, you know, there are certain changes in the number of premolars or in the molars. So we'll see that now. Now, if you want to understand the anatomy or the dental anthropology, the cusp are the most important morphological functions. So what actually is cusp is nothing but an elevation we see as a mold, an elevation from the surface of the tooth. So these are not real tooth, these are all the, you know, die models. So these elevations, what you see here is the, we call them as the cusp. So the number of cusp may vary. So that cusp may be a trait. The number of cusp may be a particular trait. So one molar may be having 4 cusps on one side, on another side there may be 3 cusps. So there are certain variations. So when we are studying about the cusp, so try to see that the quantitative, that is the number, qualitative size, shape, topology, orientation. Topology is that the spatial relationship with the adjacent. Like for example, those dental graduates there, they may understand the topology means, like I say, the oblique ridge. Look at the mesiolingual cusp to the distobuccal cusp. So there is a ridge traversing the molar obliquely from the mesiolingual to the distobuccal. So that is the topology, and also the orientation, whether it is obliquely oriented or transverse ridge. So all these things are the parameters to be, you know, understood when we study about the cusp. So this is how a beautiful mouth with a very not that much beautiful. There are certain, you know, some clock calculus are there. So there are the elevations. What you can see here, these are the cusp. Okay. Now, certain, you know, there is also loss of cusp also that may be related to the, you know, the function, or, you know, so sometimes to the psychological stress factors, you know, the anger, or all these things play a role in the, you know, the grinding. This we call them as attrition. So, you know, thanks to the chewing habits, you know, people, you know, chew this tobacco related products. So there's a wearing away of the cusp. So, you know, sometimes, some cases, we take the help of the attrition rate for age estimation. There are methods where they take the average stage of attrition for estimating the age. But that disclaimer, that means we need to be very careful about this particular. So if I use that same method in this particular case, I may be overestimating the age, because I may not be actually measuring. There is, hello? Yeah. So there's severe attrition in this particular area. So I may not be able position to use the average stage attrition method. Even the pulp tooth ratio methodology of age estimation may not be possible, or sometimes it may be misleading. Because of course, when we take the PTR method, the pulp ratio will be, the pulp volume may be perfect, but what about the tooth surface volume? So it may be reduced, so that will alter the ratio. So we are careful in using the methodology of age estimation. So in such cases, ultimately, if at all there is a sacrifice of a tooth, or if any of the tooth is going for an extraction, so the dentinal translucency method or the cemental annulation method may be applicable to some extent. So this is just a word of caution that we may not be jumping into even in any anthropological specimens, we may not be able to jump. What information we get is that even though the cusps are attributed, but it's very clear-cut information is there that this is overused teeth. That means either in the form of dietary habits, or in the form of a parafunctional habit, or sometimes in psychological habit also. Like whenever we get stressed or anger, we just clench our teeth. So that may be reflected the morphology of the tooth. So again, this is a word of caution. Now we should know those odontology students there, we need to understand the phylogenetic classification of the tooth forms. Now it all started with fish. That means they had similar teeth appearance. So they all classified as a haplodont. Number of cusps are there. If it is a single cone-like appearance, you can see the schematic just drawn for your understanding, last minute drawing, so kindly bear with the quality. So this is the cone appearance of the teeth. So you can see in alligators and crocodiles, so they are all same. A triconodont, that means they have three cusps. These tiger carnivorous animals, they have this type of molar patterns. And tritubercular molar dogs, domestic animal dog, we have this type of pattern. And we human beings have this quadritubercular form of tooth. That means we have a certain number of cusps. So based on the cusp only, the shape of the tooth alters. If the cusp number is reduced, the outline of the tooth or the morphology of the tooth alters. So that is very has to be considered to the maximum in dental anthropology. Of course, we have the terminologies also. I'll skip this, though this is not that important for others. Maybe a session for the odontology students in future will be helpful. I'll show this. So I'll skip this. Now come to dental anatomy. Now as I told already, this is how our teeth looks like. So we know that there is a strong link between the teeth and its dietary and the masticatory pattern. So earlier, from a homodont, it turned out to be a heterodont. Homodont yani all were looking, but heterodont yani different forms of teeth. Like we have incisor, canines, and premolars and molars. So based on the dietary pattern and of course the adaptation, so the total evolutionary change has taken place to this level. So we modern humans have this heterodont type. Of course, for your information, we know that the big blue whales, the biggest animal in the world, in the entire universe, so you don't see any teeth. The blue whales don't have any teeth. The snails, they have more than 15,000 teeth in their mouth. So, of course, we don't have to compare this with the human teeth. But in some cases, as I told already, when in commingled bodies or in certain specimens where the human bones and teeth are also involved, so we need to identify them. So just for the information of the odontology students, these are the dental formula for human, how many number of teeth. So these are the field theory. You can see that the variations in humans, horse and lions, incisor numbers, they are increasing. The canine, we have one, upper and lower, we have premolars, we have two, molars, we have three. This is how the variations take place. Now you can just compare the dental formula of various animals. Not only the morphology, you suppose get a full mandible or the skull of the animal, there are methods also identify between human and animal skulls, but that is not the scope of today's lecture. So we jump into the dental formula of other animals. Now, the dental nomenclature. We dental students, we have been teaching about the Zygmundis system, the Palmer's notation system, and the universal FDA. We have been teaching the students about how to do the tooth numbering, but the anthropological notation is something like this. We human teeth are, we have diphyodont, that means we have two sets. Deciduous means the milk teeth for those non-dental students there, and permanent teeth. So the heterodont, we have these various categories. So this is how the deciduous dentition, or notation is being given. The small letter I denotes deciduous incisor, and 1 and 2 denotes lateral. So accordingly, they are given. So this is the grade, and on either side, this is the upper left, and lower right quadrant. So accordingly, they are in number, and the same thing applicable for the permanent. That we put a capital letter. I'm sorry for this, I put a small c here. It has to be a capital C. And premolar, molar, and second and third molar. So this is the notation. The forensic odontology students over there, they should know this. A very commonly asked university question, so make a note of it. Now, coming to the traits. In our teeth, we have certain variations, like there are developmental variations. So accordingly, the traits are also different. Dental developmental traits. Then we have the mensurational trait. That means they are metric, those which are measured, and certain morphological traits, which cannot be measured but can be given grading or a scoring, and certain anomalous traits. That means related to the developmental disturbances which are taking place in the during the development process, and structural functional traits. So in short, if we define traits, this is the broad classification of how earlier we have been knowing only about two traits, that is the metric trait and the non-metric traits, but we as odontology students, we need to include all these also. Now coming to let us see one by one the developmental traits. So we know that the gene influence, again repeating, they are influencing the dental development. Only the genes, the environmental, and the the epigenetic mechanisms also, which are governed by the diet, the climatic changes, the geographic locations. All these things govern this, and ultimately the tooth morphology is being reflected. So it is ultimately reflecting on the morphology of the tooth. So that will give the variations. So okay, so this is the background for the developmental traits. Some of the examples I can all the photographs here in this presentations are my own, our departments. So please don't photos. These are our own photographs, not a single from many other source. So these are the the hypoplastic enamel, the enamel structures. Ultimately, nutritional defect, environmental defect, all is being reflected here. So in an anthropological specimen, if such type of teeth stains or hypocalcification, so that inputs on the dietary behavior or their nutritional behavior, or even sometimes to their drinking water in case of fluorosis. All these things are reflected. This is a typical of dental fluorosis. Now we come to the second one, that is the mensurational traits. That means we call it as the odontometric traits. We do the measurements, for this type of trait. So basically, the main 4 measurements are required. So if at all anyone wants to take any research projects on odontometric, we need to concentrate on the buccolingual, mesodistal, crown height, and crown. Of course, there are other measurements like the cuspal measurements also, and the measurement at the cervical region. Because there are reports which shows that the difference between the mesodistal dimension in the maximum curvature and at the cervical, they are showing racial variations. So there is a report I can share it to you in later course. But there are reports which shows that the difference in the cervical measurement and the maximum bulk, that varies among the. So ultimately, what it is, the curvature it matters here. Okay, so here, so we do this type of odontometric measurements. What is required? We don't need any hi-fi or very sophisticated equipments to do the measurement of a tooth. Very simple things we need. At the most maximum, what we need maybe a digital vernier caliper. But even with the help of Boyle's gauge and the simple scale, the measurement can be done. Regarding this odontometric, I'd even stress on one of my guest editorial stating that we have around 313 dental colleges across India, and if we consider 50 teeth being extracted per day, so in the whole of India in 1 year there will be 46 lakhs of teeth which are going into the dustbin, without any measurements. And out of those 46 lakhs may not be, every tooth may not be giving the valuable measurement or information, but at least to some extent, even if it is 30%. So a huge amount of data which may be collected, for a population-based study, or because even now we are relying upon certain standard books measurement. If even when doing a RCT, root canal treatment, if you have certain slight doubt about the root length, we just turn the pages of some standard books and we see the what is the actual length of the root. Okay, but those data were in Western population and they were reported decades ago. But there needs to be certain updation. So that is why I have highlighted in this particular publication there is a need for odontometrics. So before going into the dustbin, or the solid waste management bin, the tooth should send or give some information to us and go. Okay, even a simple thing like this, if it can be possible. Maybe looking very silly, but the data, I often say that the fact lies in the data, but we don't, go for the data. Okay? So that is the reason, we are still behind in dental anthropology or in any field. Like, we need to do certain measurements, and this simpler thinking may also be, able to achieve big things. Now, coming to the cusp names according to the mammal. So in our dental college, we teach the cusp as mesiobuccal, distobuccal, based on their position. But for forensic anthropology, dental anthropology point of view, we need a different, this is the nomenclature. So this is again will be dealt in detail if a separate course on dental anthropology is done, just for your information. So these are the morphological traits. Now, the another thing is the non-metric trait, that is the morphological traits. So you can see very clearly in one of my studies, you have observed that these are the traits. Each one is a trait. In our first DDS students, we teach the first molar has got 5 cusps. Mandibular first molar is having 5 cusps. That means 3 on the buccal and 2 on the lingual. But you can see here, this is one trait. That means there is a variation here. So that variation, what we call it as a trait here. So you see this in one of my studies, we covered around 1,300 school children. So we observed that I covered these 8 districts of Gujarat. So each district, I'm able to see some amount variation in this particular molar. Of course, I say of the district, even the population is, because in some area, for example, in this Chota Udaipur district, the population dominated by the tribal community. When I say in the Porbandar district, the population concentrating that the fishermen community. So according to that, we came to finding that we search for the data, but similar population-based studies in Gujarat was not done. So we took up this as a big project, and now it's going. So this is how the same first molar, you can see this. Appreciate this. Here you cannot see even, there is a 4 cusp type. But ulta, you can see the second molar, which is showing multiple crenulations, like the primitive type. This is very, very multi-cusped pattern, which is a characteristic of the negroid race. The negroid molars have multiple cusps. So this is something resembling like that. Whereas here you can see there's a 3 and then small cusp 6 and this cusp 7. So accordingly we give the number. So the morphology also are variable here. So this is just for the understanding. So you can see all our first, you can see except for this, we can see the variations in that. So that is what we call it as a non-metric trait. That means we qualitatively we grade that. So accordingly we, to do this, before going into so for that we need to understand the geometry. When we are talking about a particular unit as a cusp, I was talking about that cusp unit. Now when you see the whole crown as a unit, so metric pattern, like for example the triangular, the rhomboidal, trapezoidal, the hexagonal. So these are for our understanding. So if you can make out the outline, the general outline of a tooth, they are following certain geometric principles. So that is why there are studies coming out with the geometric, morphometric variations in tooth form. It's commonly coming in many journals. Now, what do we require for that? If anyone wants to take up this project on non-metric traits, on dental non-metric traits, what we require? Very simple things, as I told already, like for scales. We don't require any hi-fi sophisticated here. Again, a very simple thing, what we require, what we need to buy here is, this is called as the Turner Scott Corner system. Earlier it was, the